Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people think the world revolves around them and nobody matters. And in today's episode, guys, a snobby, smug Karen makes one single comment and destroys her own career. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your Reddit post to this email right here. So a little while back, I was at work, and it was a particularly busy day. So I was rushing a bit. I was in the washroom, and I walked past a very flustered-looking man standing next to another man in a wheelchair. Both were outside the toilets. Now just for context, the washroom has multiple cubicles. Not the ones where you can look under to see feet though. The toilets were in separate enclosed areas with doors. But there's also a disabled toilet, which is separate. So I walked past them in a hurry, and as soon as I probably got a few feet past them, the flustered-looking man says, "Excuse me." Now the guy sounded really irritated, so I flinched and wished I was anywhere else, but I turned around with a big smile on my face and said, yes, can I help you, sir?" The man responds, still sounding just as belligerent, "The door for the disabled toilet won't open. Open it." All the while, he's banging on the door, trying to knock it open. Now, I'm already internally rolling my eyes because he's talking to me like I'm the one who's personally locked or broken the door. And also, like he's definitely expecting me to be able to instantly fix it. So the guy calls me to go look at the door, getting louder and louder, and I don't even say anything. I just go look at the door and he's still talking behind me saying, "I've been trying and it won't open." At this point, I really look at the door, and now it becomes really difficult not to react. The little indicator on the door is red, indicating that the toilet is occupied. So I turn back to him and say, "Sir, the toilet's occupied. You see the little red thing?" Hearing me say that, he stares at it in silence for a moment, and then he actually says this sentence to me. The man says, "Well, what am I supposed to do then? How long are they going to be?" I was honestly just lost for words at this point. After a few seconds of silence, I say, I'm not really sure what to suggest, sir." He then has the audacity to roll his eyes at me and say, "Ugh, fine. I guess I'll wait." Now this is honestly one of the weirdest discussions that I've ever had, and 5 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. Oh my goodness, guys, like, has that man ever been in a public washroom before? And guys, imagine being the person sitting on the toilet at the time, like, just in your most vulnerable state, having the door pounded on repeatedly, with people screaming and trying to knock it open. Like, that person was probably so terrified. And I just had to share this comment. This person says, "Some people seem to believe that if they get angry enough, the universe will magically bend to their will. Ain't that the truth?" So when I was a kid, I tried my hardest to be a little entrepreneur, and my mother supported me all the way. I had lemonade stands, sold books of poetry on the corner by my house, and all of my neighbors supported me all the way. The summer I was 8 years old, I decided that lemonade stands didn't generate enough money, so I, with my neighbors who were my age, decided to not only do a lemonade stand, but also do a car wash. I also want to note that this was over a decade ago, when children could basically do whatever. My mom gave us access to the hose, bought us big sponges, and a Home Depot bucket full of soapy water. We charged $5 a car wash and sold lemonade to the owners while they waited for us to finish. We ended up making over $100 in a week. On the third day, a man pulls up asking for a car wash. So we get to work, scrubbing the sides, tires, and the windows. However, being 8 years old, none of us could get high enough to clean his roof, beyond hitting it with a hose. We figured that wasn't a big deal because, again, he paid us $5, but we were mistaken. So this grown adult man decided that he was gonna get out of his car, scream at a bunch of elementary school kids because we didn't do the job properly. We did not scrub down the roof of his car. The guy screamed at us that he wasn't going to pay because he had not gotten his money's worth. My mother sat on the front steps the entire time to watch us. However, she had gone inside to use the washroom right before this happened. When she heard him screaming, she runs out. Now, a little backstory about my mother. She's one tough lady. She's an openly gay woman, a cancer survivor, and a complete mama bear. My mother was not gonna stand for this. This 5'3" lady gets into his face and she screams something along the lines of, "You effing a-hole," Why would you ever effing expect a professional job from 8-year-olds, you idiot? You're being charged $5 and you're gonna pay them or I'm gonna break your nose. Now, I have never seen a grown man look so intimidated. The guy gave us a $20 bill, told us to keep the change, and got back into his car and drove away. I love my mom. I just want to say I love OP's mom too, guys. Like, I'm glad the mom was there to defend those kids. And seriously, even if he wasn't happy with the job, which he wasn't, 1, realize that it's a bunch of 8-year-olds cleaning your car, sir. It's not gonna be perfect. And 2, why the heck would you even think about screaming at a group of 8-year-olds that are just trying to have fun running their business? And seriously, if I saw a business like that in my neighborhood, I would be ecstatic, guys. I would have stopped by and donated money for them to spray a single wheel. Never destroy a young child's dream, sir. Alright, so I'm 28 years old, and my stepmother, who's 49 years old, is a wannabe party planner. She's taken it upon herself to plan and host every party and holiday that my dad's family has thrown since she married him. To be honest, I never loved those occasions growing up. She's controlling and she gets upset if people complain about anything. But I humored her for my dad's sake, and according to him, this helps her feel included. So I'm getting married to my fiancée Jane in July. We got engaged in early 2021, but Jane ended up getting pregnant a couple of months after that, so we decided to postpone the wedding to focus on our son for a while. So we've had a long engagement. My stepmother has tried to hijack our wedding plans from day one. She would do things such as contacting our planner, showing up unannounced to Jane's wedding dress appointment, trying to decide what we'll wear the day of, etc, etc, and we have repeatedly asked her to stop. Dad wants us to humor her, but she's clearly resentful of the fact that she's not hosting the wedding and being labeled mother of the groom in invitations. Besides our baby boy, we also have Luke, who's 4 years old, Jane's paternal half-brother. She got custody of him a few months into our relationship after his parents died. I've been in Luke's life since he was a baby. He doesn't call me dad, but he refers to us as his sister and my name. But we love him like a son. My stepmother, though, hates Luke. She accuses Jane of baby-trapping her way into the family, and that accusation only got worse after our son was born. My dad gets along with Jane, and he adores the kids, but stepmother demands him to refuse babysitting Luke or coming in contact with Luke ever, so we don't leave the kids with them often. Instead, Jane's brother and sister-in-law usually watches the kids for us, as their kids are closer to ours in age. So we had a thing last Sunday, and my brother-in-law was out of town with his family, and Jane's siblings live in different cities, as well as my mom and sister. My dad agreed to babysit at our place, and we left. We come back to find both kids crying, my stepmother screaming, and Dad weakly trying to calm everyone down. Apparently, Luke had told my stepmom that both he and our son were going to be our ring bearers, and she went ballistic. She screamed at my kids, saying that she wasn't going to allow that because Luke wasn't family. She then smacked him when he started crying, and his lip is split. She had never gotten to this point before. We immediately banned her from our house and from the wedding. And Dad is fuming that we banned her, and he said he's not going without her. He's also convinced his side of the family to boycott the wedding as well. This includes my stepbrother, who fully agrees with his mother no matter how many times I try to tell him the truth. Me and Jane are refusing to budge, but many of my cousins who aren't coming anymore are asking us to reconsider. Pretty much all of Jane's family agrees with us, but one of her aunts has suggested that maybe stepmother is acting out because she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. I've honestly had it with my family enabling her behavior. I love my dad, and I really want him at my wedding, but I'm more than willing to go no contact if it means protecting my family. We did press charges. We took Luke to the pediatrician the next day, and we gathered every piece of evidence we had. Not only did we have pictures of Luke's face, but by some miraculous strike of luck, we also had nanny cam footage. My stepmother had not been invited to our house, but my dad really hasn't gone anywhere without her in years, so we took precautions. We didn't expect her to actually do anything this awful, but we've never trusted her with the kids. The physical attack happened off camera, but there is some camera footage of her screaming at Luke and him crying before the event. She now has a child abuse charge on her rap sheet. We wouldn't let her get away with this. Yeah, so I'm just glad to hear that OP ended up pressing charges on his mother-in-law. And guys, all I can say is if I were in OP's shoes, she would have gotten much worse than just a ban from the wedding. Like, you're my stepmom, lady. You'd better be extra careful what you do to my kiddos. And shame on dad for siding with this monster. Like, she's psycho, guys. If anybody loses control of their temper that badly over an innocent statement from a 4-year-old, you need to lock them up and throw away the key. So OP does come back with updates though, and here they are. Because I haven't spoken with my father, my sister's been keeping me updated on what he's been up to. As I found out through her, the story my dad and stepmom told the rest of the family completely erases Luke's injury and the abuse charges. It insinuates that me and Jane had banned them because we got annoyed with my stepmom and decided to take it out on my dad as well. Because most people already disliked my stepmom, explaining what actually happened that night wasn't hard. Most of the relatives that I actually want at the wedding have apologized, and they're berating my dad as well. The people that didn't believe us, as well as those saying that we overreacted, have been told they're not welcome in our home anymore. Those are mostly people from my dad's generation, so I can't say I'm surprised. But the realization that they're so biased that they're willing to protect a woman that they hate after she hurt a child just to make my dad happy has reassured me that I don't need them in my life. My stepbrother is still in denial. He refuses to believe that his mother could hurt a child, even with all the evidence we have. So he's banned too. It sucks because we were close growing up, but I don't regret it. With Jane's family, they're all furious over what happened, and they've been extremely supportive of us. Luke has gotten much better, and he's almost completely back to being the sunny child he's always been. The split lip was shallow, thankfully. It's healing slowly and doesn't require any stitches. We sat him down a few days ago and explained that my dad and stepmonster wouldn't be around anymore. He really liked my dad, but he understands that he and my stepmom are attached at the hip. He's clearly scared of her, but we're doing our best to make him feel safe. Me and Jane have reassured him that he is family, that we do love him, and no one will ever change that. I'm also not too worried about dad or my stepmom trying to show up at the wedding, but we've alerted the venue, given them pictures just in case they try anything. Better safe than sorry. Her main excuse, which is pretty entitled, is that she doesn't feel like my family welcomes her, so that's why she does things like that. It hurts to know that my son won't have his only remaining biological grandfather in his life, but he has 2 amazing step-grandpas to make up for it. And for now, I'm sad, but I'm satisfied with how things have turned out. I don't like to complain about my life. It's a mess, but it's a beautiful one. I love my fiance, I love my kids, and I'm lucky enough to love my job. We're happy, and I'm not letting anyone ruin that. Yeah, so with that update, all I can say is way to go OP. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to protect your family, right? Like, cutting out dad and stepmom from the picture is the best thing that he could have done for not only Luke, but the kids as well. Okay, so for some context, I've been married to my wife for 10 plus years. We're a mixed race couple. I'm Asian and she's Caucasian. Now, I've always gotten along with her family, mostly her mother, her brother, and her sister, but I've always felt like her father and other sister, Sarah, has never liked me. I'm a professionally trained chef with 15 plus years of experience, and I work at a high-end Chinese restaurant. It's a spin-off of a popular one in Beijing, in a large US city. My crew and I have won several awards, and I've been explicitly told that I'll be the next executive chef. Sarah is also a professionally trained chef, and she works at a popular upscale French restaurant in the city. She constantly brags about it, and no joke, she compares herself out loud to Chef Ramsay and Bourdain. Whenever I'm at my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house helping in the kitchen, Sarah's always criticizing everything I do. Whether it's chopping, braising, marinating, etc., she always butts in with comments like, I think you should actually do it like this. I've been patient for my wife and sidestepping those comments, saying things like, thanks, but I'll stick to the way I do it. Things came to a head a few weeks ago when my wife, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and I were in her parents' kitchen prepping dinner for my mother-in-law's birthday. We were running a bit behind, so things were heated, and that's when Sarah walks in. She takes one look at what I was doing, scoffs, and says something like, oh wow, okay, that's not the right way of doing things at all. Hearing her say that, it did hit a nerve, and I pretty sternly told her to stop criticizing my cooking and that I'm also a chef like her. It's at that point she laughs and says, making Kung Pao chicken at some Chinese restaurant doesn't count. And at that, the kitchen went silent. My father-in-law starts snorting and chuckling, and my mother-in-law yells, Sarah, What is wrong with you? I then stopped what I was doing, swore at her, and called her a racist piece of crap. I then apologized to mother-in-law for not being able to stay and left for home with my wife. Apparently, this has caused a massive fight after we left, with my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and other sister-in-law taking my side, and my father-in-law and Sarah saying, well, it's just a joke, but it's kind of true, and also saying that I was being too sensitive. The extended family somehow got wind of this, and now everyone's arguing and taking sides, with my wife even getting texts from some cousins apologizing for Sarah's behavior. Despite being on my side, my wife is begging me to apologize so the fighting will stop, but I refuse because F Sarah and her blatant racism. So am I the a-hole? Yeah, OP is definitely not the a-hole in this situation, guys, and a lot of people are saying that OP shouldn't apologize. Like, a person can only take so much before snapping, and the sister-in-law's comment about cooking Asian food doesn't really count as real cooking is absurd. Okay, so with that said, OP does come back with a ton of updates, guys, and it keeps getting worse and worse. Edit number 1. My wife has informed me that Sarah may be in trouble at work, and she's blaming me for it. Apparently, one of her coworkers heard her rant about what happened and reported it to management. Sarah's blaming me, though my wife is partly blaming me. Edit number 2. So it looks like one of my wife's cousins found the post and is putting it on Sarah's Facebook wall going, this is you, right? Her Facebook friends are starting to comment things like, if this is you, Sarah, I'm disappointed. I think Sarah's still at work. Crap might be hitting the fan soon, and now my wife's pissed off too. Update number 3. I was considering removing this, but I just got a voicemail from my father-in-law, and he says, quote, my presence was only being tolerated up until this point. He then threatened a world of hurt if I didn't delete the post. Officially, I'm going to keep this post up, and if you're reading this, Doug, I'm very disappointed in you. You're better than this. I will also continue to update, and thanks again for all your support, folk. Update number 3. Lots of stuff just went down. Number 1. My wife got a call from sister-in-law, and Sarah started screaming and crying at her the moment my wife picked up and said that she just got demoted because of me, her Asian slur husband. Apparently, some of her coworkers have her on Facebook, and they showed the post to management, which combined with her earlier rant, double whammied her back to being a line cook, and now she might get fired. My wife told her to go F herself, and now she's solidly on my side, after taking the verbal abuse from Sarah and reading some of the comments here. My wife is still opposite of happy though. Number 2, my wife called mother-in-law and asked her what the F was going on with father-in-law. Mother-in-law was confused, so my wife played back the voicemail I had on my phone, and apparently mother-in-law just walks away from the phone without hanging up, and she starts screaming at father-in-law. Number 3, the Facebook post has now devolved into a flame war, with family and friends jumping in. Suffice to say, it's officially gone nuclear. Edit number 5. So suffice to say, it's been kind of nuts this past week. My wife and I had to turn off social media for a bit because of the crapstorm caused by her cousin putting my post on Sarah's Facebook page. Some people even tried to call the restaurant I work at to get me fired as retribution, but luckily everybody there is 100% on my side. My boss even said, F Sarah and F those racists. I guess it didn't help them that half the calls to the place I worked at involved threats, screaming, and more racial slurs. We didn't hear any updates from her family, even though we assumed the crap did hit the fan after mother-in-law found out about father-in-law's threatening voicemail. I'm still disappointed in you, Doug. But that changed on Sunday night, when mother-in-law suddenly shows up at our door with overnight bags. After we took a moment to help unpack and calm down, she spilled the beans on everything. Apparently, my mother-in-law and father-in-law were having trouble with their marriage, and it was only made worse with a certain 2016 presidential election. It then seems a line was crossed with the Kung Pao incident and his voicemail. When he refused to apologize for anything, which was typical Doug, she then asked for a divorce and he went berserk. She didn't feel safe, so that's when she came over. According to my mother-in-law, the fallout has allegedly led to some breakups, excommunication of some family members, and even an argument that ended with police involvement. I haven't verified this myself though. According to mother-in-law, Sarah came over to her place on Friday. The writing was on the wall, and she was basically forced to quit. Despite her trying to start from scratch as a line cook, the entire staff turned against her. Nothing was coming back from the dish pit for her, and she was getting the cold shoulder. Now, I will admit that she's a great chef, but they took no chances since it turns out, and I kid you not, that they are partly owned by a Chinese investment company. I found this hard to believe, and I didn't want to add the detail, but it turned out to be true after some research. I won't say any further for privacy, but word got around in the local industry, and Sarah is essentially blacklisted from high-end establishments. She's now considering selling her home and moving to find work. And as much as I don't like her and I found her behavior horrifying, I didn't intend for this to happen. So I reached out to some buddies in other states to see if they have any openings. Whether or not she wants to take it, it's up to her. It also sure as hell doesn't feel like a happy ending. Perhaps bittersweet justice, but that's all I can give you. Thank you for your support and for reading. Guys, wow, did this ever go nuclear on Sarah? Guys, I'm speechless. Like, one comment led to all this, and that's the power of the internet, folks. And seriously, I feel like this is an accidental nuclear revenge. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. I hope you didn't shake your heads too hard, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/petty revenge, where OP's Karen neighbor lets her dog crap on OP's doorstep repeatedly, and OP decides to get some revenge. It's such a satisfying story, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.